Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber, all you have to do is to press that red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. All right, in today's podcast, I'm going to talk of India US relations. I'm going to talk of the fact that what has gone wrong in this relationship, why these relations have soured, but more important, I'm going to talk of the fact that what can be done to revive these relations, to salvage this relationship. Because I do believe that this relationship is important. I would even say it is critical in India's endeavor to become a major power. And we can do this without compromising on our self respect, on our dignity, on our value systems, and even on our economic and strategic interests. We can do all that. And yet we can salvage this relationship. Sounds like a tall order at the moment, but it can be done. But first, let me explain why this relationship is important because, for at least from the media, if not so much from the government, it appears as if we have already given up on this relationship. We are already moving past America. We are moving into a totally different, into a different direction altogether. And that should not be the case because this relationship matters. And why does it matter? Let me explain that once again. I personally feel it is not completely true when people tell us that, oh, if the relationship goes, we'll take a hit in terms of our exports. It would be about only 4.5% of our exports, of the total potential of our exports, which is over $800 billion. So we would lose maybe around $40 billion or something to that effect. That doesn't really tell you the true picture. And why doesn't it tell you the true picture? Because remember, the sectors which will be most impacted, sectors like textiles, gems, and jewelry, these are highly labor intensive sectors, which means a lot of jobs will be lost. Already, some of those orders are drying up. There's a bit of a panic which is setting in. And therefore, this is something which we can ill afford at the moment. Of course, we can tide over it. But why should we lose it if we can somehow retain it and retain this particular sector? That's the first part of it. The second part of it, which I don't think so a lot of people have considered, is the fact that it's not only the exports which will which will be impacted by this adversity in our relationship. But the fact also is there's a lot of FDI, foreign direct investment, which comes through the route of the United States, which also could be impacted. American companies investing in India, and the entire apparatus could actually be affected if there is an adversity in this relationship. Let's also keep that in mind. Number three, and this is also very important, whether we like it or not, there is something called the Western Bloc, the Western group, the Western group of countries. You can call them the white Western Bloc, that's fine, but it is there. And even right now, America might be having problems with Canada. It might be having even some issues with Europe, etc. But believe you me and trust me, and you can verify this after some time. Those problems between European countries, the Western Bloc, and America will be sorted out at some point or the other. They will be together. I don't think so. There's going to be a separation out there, as a lot of people think. And therefore, the question we need to ask is that do we not, as an emerging power, as a developing power on our way to becoming a major power, do we not also want to be part of that particular grouping of these advanced countries? Of course, we want to be, and therefore that is another big loss. if if this adversity in this relationship is not addressed, keep that in mind. And lastly, remember another important thing, which I don't think so we have given too much thought to, that it's fine that we are, there is this talk of India, China, Russia, and all that. And Russia is, of course, a very dear friend, a very close friend. Keep that in mind. But the fact of the matter is, are we really comfortable? And why haven't we thought about this? That eventually, do we want to see ourselves only in the grouping of China, Russia, And I'm going to extend it even further, maybe Iran and then North Korea after that, or Venezuela after that. Is this what our ambition should be? That's the question which we need to throw open and ask ourselves, that this is where we are heading to? Not really. And therefore, keep this in mind. This is what we will lose if this relationship collapses. So there's much at stake here. And I'm saying all this not because I am deliberately going against the grain of thinking of what is going on right now. There is a lot of anti Americanism which is going on right now. I acknowledge that. But the fact is, we need to be sensible. We need to be cognizant of what really is at stake out here. We are putting too much of effort, too much of energy. We are putting too much of our emotionalism in personalities, whereas the relationship between the two countries is of critical importance. I'm arguing that again and again. And if we lose that, then this is what we are staring at the other side. So keep these things in mind. Number two, India America relations right now are, well, not exactly at rock bottom, but they are certainly in a steep fall. They are in a free fall, actually. And in a sense, if I can use the phrase right now, we are staring at the abyss and we are seeing where it will end, how further it will fall. It could certainly fall even further. There could be even more implosions. There could be even more problems which come along the way. For instance, just a couple of days back, when the so-called Field Marshal of Pakistan had made this absolutely inflammatory speech in America, and where he threatened nuclear strikes against not only India but the rest of the world. And he made all those idiotic comparisons, I thought, between a Mercedes and a garbage truck, comparing the two countries and all kinds of rubbish and nonsense. And then the very fact that it was made on US soil, which has upset many people out there. So yes, things are going really from bad to worse. No question about that. And therefore, we are looking at the abyss, as I'm saying. And once you looked at the abyss, you have seen how steep, how precipitous the fall is, and where further it can go. Therefore, the fear of the relationship completely collapsing, in a sense, has gone away because you're already now looking at the worst. And therefore, if there has to be a climb back, if there has to be a revival, then it can be done because you have already, as I said, you have peered over the abyss and you have seen that, well, it's gone down rock bottom. It can probably go even further, but maybe we can salvage it. Point number three, and I'm going to talk both in terms of important developments at the US level. I'm going to talk of the important developments at our level also. And then the third part would be that how we can salvage it. I'm going to talk about all that. But there's one thing which I want to talk about before I do that. And that is, I think, very significant. And I'm surprised why nobody in our media, amongst our podcasters, and not even in the international media actually has addressed too. And that is about the president incumbent of the White House, the president of the United States. Please remember, when people say, especially in India, oh, we had this great friendship with the president of the United States in his first term when he was there with our prime minister. We are approaching the entire thing from a very emotional angle. And certainly there was probably maybe even genuine friendship. There was a lot of camaraderie. There was a lot of gung-ho atmosphere. All those good things were there. And maybe a lot of policies were on sync. They were working in alignment. I agree with all that. But please understand something very significant has happened where we are not taking that into cognizance. And that significant thing which has happened with the US president is this particular US president is that he has survived an assassination attempt. A bullet nicked his ear, almost went through his brain. He could have almost been killed. And please remember, these are life-changing experiences. People change after that. And I'm just going to use some pop psychology out here and explain what the changes could have been. The changes could have been that you are, in a sense, reborn. You are, in a sense, you get a second life. And when you get a second life, when you are reborn, then you look around at the world with different eyes. You look at everything around you with changed eyes. You view people, relationships, countries, all these things in a totally different manner from what you have been viewing that before. And therefore, if this president now is viewing the India US relationship in a different manner, I would say, in one sense, it is understandable. It was bound to happen. We are not taking this into cognizance, and this is precisely what it has happened. And usually, what happens after a life-changing experience is that, yeah, one effect it could have is that you are very grateful for second chances, for a second life. But the more important and the more common occurrence which can happen is that you become skeptical of everything around you. You become skeptical of the people who are after you. You become even skeptical of your so called friends who were there. You become absolutely suspicious, sometimes even hostile, because you have come so close to death. And this, I think, probably is happening in the case of the president vis-a-vis India, where he's actually put the entire relationship with our country under a lens. And I'm certainly not justifying with what he is doing, but I'm saying understand the changes which have happened, which have occurred, which are leaving a huge impact on the relationship between both the countries. Keep that in mind. Now let's talk a little bit from the US point of view. What are the important points which have emerged after this hit which the India US relations have taken? What are the points from the US end which we need to understand? The first important thing which has really happened is that we have to understand that this now the term of this president signifies that whatever happens in the future, or in today or in the future, will be transactional. It will not be emotional. It will not be sentimental. It will be purely transactional. And that, as I said, is a direct result of life changing experiences which have happened. And therefore, this entire tariff regime talk, this entire talk of settling, bringing peace, and maybe it also explains this desire of this president to bring peace between warring parties, between warring countries, because maybe he has seen death at really at close quarters. That probably could explain that also. But whatever be the case, the fact is, the way forward is going to be transactional. It is not going to be emotional. It is not going to be this talk which we keep on doing. Oh, we are two great democracies. One is the oldest democracy in the world, and the other is the largest democracy in the world. That talk is fine. These are facts, but they frankly have no meaning any longer. You are going to be dealt with almost in the same way like any other country. What benefits you can bring to America? And therefore, we have to understand the change which has happened. It is a transactional change. Number one. The second point which has happened is, note very carefully, that hardly any US senator or politician or member of the polity in the Congress has spoken up for India. It's a fact. Maybe Nikki Haley spoke up a little bit, or there have been a few voices here and there in the geostrategic community, but the polity of the United States, nobody has spoken up for India, and you have to wonder why. Why is the case? Why is it that nobody has spoken up? Nobody, even actually from the diaspora, the leaders of the diaspora of the Indian American community, have spoken up. Notice this very carefully. And I'm not going to start pointing fingers, oh, it's because of the failure of this, that, etc. That is not the issue. There are other factors at play out here, but this is an occurrence which is happening, which we have to take note of, that the polity of the United States, both the Republican and the Democrats, hardly anyone has spoken up that why this relationship is collapsing. It has taken more than 25 years to fix this relationship, to get it moving forward, and frankly, nobody is bothered at the moment. And then, of course, as I mentioned, 25 years, yes, certainly the geostrategic community is worried. There have been a lot of geostrategic voices, people like Michael Kugelman. There have been other watchers of and the well-wishers, I would say, of India-American relation. They have spoken up that what the hell is going on out here. But as I said again, I'm saying again and again, the politicians are not speaking up, which is a huge area of concern. And then the fact also is that if they are making an example of you, if we had any illusions about that, we should not have. They are making an example of you. India is being made an example, and there's all this talk of, hey, but China was importing so much of Russian oil. European Union has been importing Russian oil, and other countries are doing. Turkey are doing well right now. Right now, at least, your importance is not even that of Turkey. Forget about the European Union, which has always been important, I think, come what may, to America. And therefore, that is a fact which we have to accept that you are no longer that particular important. You can be made an example of, and which we are being made an example of. Let's face facts out here. Then also accept another fact, and despite all the reports which people keep talking about, that inflation is on the rise, and these tariff policies are going to backfire on the present administration in America. There's a lot of talk about that. That could happen. That might not happen. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm in no position to comment about that. But what I do know is that this present president, by still even today, is still very, very popular. His MAGA base still remains largely intact. It's a very formidable base. And therefore, people who are talking of the fact, let's wait it out till the midterms, let's wait it out for the next 3.5 years, somebody new then come and we can fix this relationship. I'm afraid if we don't fix it right now, the rot is going to go so deep that whoever comes next, or whether the president becomes less powerful after the midterms, I'm assuming if that also happens, none of that is going to change the trajectory of India US relations. They will start going down, and once they go down, it'll be a steep fall. And therefore, to recover just because some new incumbent comes in the White House, it takes years and years to establish trust. It's not going to be established so easily. So it's a major cause of concern. And then the other thing, which actually is a point not only of the US but also of India, also, it's very easy for glib talkers, podcasters, both, especially in our country, to keep talking of the fact, oh, we can easily diversify. It's only 4.5% of exports, and it's very easy for exports. Ask the exporter, ask the people who have set up their businesses vis-a-vis the US. You think it's easy setting up a business, a profitable business, a business, for instance, of shrimps or of ready-made garments, of apparel, of gems and jewelry, that you can set it up in a day? And then, there's a policy change which happened. There's a disagreement between two countries, the business collapses. And then, you go looking for fresh markets in Africa. You can look for fresh markets in EU. This is glib talking. These things take a toll. Sometimes those jobs never ever come back. Please remember what happened to the textile industry when the textile industry so many years back collapsed, and millions of textile workers in India were left jobless. Those jobs never came back. They just went away. So it's very easy to do this glib talking that, yeah, we can diversify. It's so very easy for us to diversify. Let's not give false hope or paint these rosy pictures. Let's face reality as it is. It is going to be a very hard knocking. And that is why I'm saying we have to try our utmost to save these jobs. We have to try our utmost that somehow this tariff structure comes down drastically, to that these businesses remain, that the jobs remain, that the exports remain. They are not vaporized in thin air. Let's not even talk or go down that road, because it's very easy for us podcasters to paint all these ludicrous and rosy pictures, when the reality actually can be very tough and totally different. So let's keep that in mind. And then the more important thing from the US point of view is then the entry of Pakistan in this picture. Suddenly, Pakistan is there big time in the picture. Why has that happened? What is Pakistan offering to the US? What is it doing that it has become so endearing to the United States vis-a-vis India? And on this note, I will also, exercise some caution. The president incumbent, we all know a lot about him, but I'm not too sure that some of the analysis we keep doing him for all the time about that and we loosely use terms like megalomaniac and this and that, reality show, this, that. Look, at the end of the day, there are policy people, there are economists, there are geostrategists who are behind the president, or for that matter, any other president, as they are behind our prime minister. Also, there are people who are advising, there are people whose advice is being taken. And therefore, I don't believe in the fact that one person is taking all the decisions. There's a lot of thinking and a decision making which is going on behind the scenes. And therefore, if this shift is happening in India US relations, and if the US is gravitating towards Pakistan, then there are reasons they are happening, and why they are happening. We have to understand that. And therefore, in this now portion, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pakistan angle, that how did Pakistan enter the picture? Now, we have understood that just to summarize quickly, that the relationship I still believe is very, very important. We have to do everything possible, rage against the dying of the light, using a famous poetic line to explain the relationship. Try your level best. If it collapses, it collapses. So be it. But we still haven't tried our level best. We need to keep on trying more, because it's important. Jobs are on the line. A place in the sun is on the line. FDI investment is on the line. All that is on the line. Okay. And if there are now policy changes which are happening in Washington, which Pakistan has suddenly become more important, we need to understand it, address the issue. I still believe we can do that. And therefore, we have to see what Pakistan is offering and why it's become important, and what is it that we can offer to counter that. We need to think about all that also. Now, let's talk about a little bit about Pakistan. Pakistan right now has suddenly become important not because Asim Munir, or this so-called field marshal, whatever you want to call him, is a person of endearing interest, or a magnetic personality in Washington, D.C., where, he's being feted and wined and dined by everyone. Not wined, maybe, but certainly dined by everyone. I don't think so. That's not the issue at all. I'm pretty sure that most of the people in Washington, they would be, squirming in their seats sitting next to a man, because today only, I think, somebody very important in the ex-US State Department said that this man actually is an Osama bin Laden in a suit. And I think the people in Washington know that. I don't think so that they are unaware of the fact, but right now they are still quoting him. And the reason for that is very, very simple. The reason for that is Baluchistan. As I said, this now is a transactional administration in place in Washington. And as I said, that the president, after his near-death experience, has emerged probably into a different entity, into a different person altogether. He's a very, very transactional person. The administration is very transactional. And the transaction which they foresee from especially Balochistan, which is, of course, still part of Pakistan. Tomorrow, if it separates, wonderful for us, really, but it is still a part of Pakistan, is that there are now almost confirmed reports that there are probably rare earth minerals out there. There's a lot of gold out there. There might even be some oil supplies out there, but rare earth minerals are out there. And we know the relationship between US and China, where China is blocking a lot of these rare earths. That's the leverage, that's the control, that's the trump card which they have in their hands vis-a-vis the US. And therefore, if the US can lay their hands on this mineral earths, rare earths deposit in Balochistan, wonderful. And therefore, this courtship of Pakistan, it's simple as that. It's a simple transactional thing. And in line with that, yesterday, the US administration banned the BLA, that is the Balochistan Liberation Army, precisely because of that, to appease the Pakistanis, so that the Pakistanis can, they can send their troops or whatever to crush the BLA. So clear out the insurgents the insurgency, stop the insurgency or kill the insurgency in Balochistan, to make clear the American ingress into Balochistan, because at the end of the day, they're getting something out of there which is very vital to the national interests of the US. That's a simple reason they're quoting Pakistan. We don't have to get into all this, that. People are saying, oh, the CENTCOM generals have always been very close to the Pakistani generals. I personally don't think they give a hang about Pakistani generals, or for that matter, any other generals anywhere in the world. I don't think so. Those are the real reasons. It's simple transactional. They're going to get something from Balochistan. They want it very, very badly, which is, and the Pakistan, if you have to give some credit to the Pakistanis, they've been very good in selling this particular thing. Maybe the potential is not so much. Maybe it is above that. Maybe it is a little bit of this potential we are talking about. Nobody knows. But the fact is, they have sold it well, that the Balochistan has this potential, and the Americans are deeply, deeply interested. And remember, take your mind back to the point in time when the Americans were so interested also in Ukraine, precisely for the same reason that there were these mineral deposits in Ukraine, which the Americans could, take control of on salvage, which would help their industries. Because the accent now, America is definitely on industries within their own country. And so it's part of that particular larger transactional strategy. And then maybe the generals of Pakistan have given the hope to the Americans that tomorrow, if relations again go south with Iran, then Pakistan would be the perfect country for the Americans to turn to. They could use their air bases, they could use their facilities, they could, use transit through Pakistan to get to Iran. So, in short, what I'm really saying is that the Pakistanis have sold themselves well. I think the time when we were basking in this so called assumption that because we were friends with this president in the first term, and therefore the relationship would continue as before, those hopes have been bellied, because we did not realize that the Pakistanis probably had been working over time, whether through their lobbyists or lobbies, or whether through whatever diplomacy or whatever back channel talks or whatever you want to call it. And they have sold the case of the Balochistan very, very, very well. And I personally don't lay so much of emphasis on the fact that, yeah, we of course have knocked out their F-16s and all that in Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. But is that the real reason why the Americans are so upset with them? I'm not too sure. I think it is purely transactional. It is because they're going to get something out of Pakistan, which the Americans need right now. That, I think, is the single biggest reasons why they are gravitating towards Pakistan. And yet, despite that, that still does not explain the language, the words which have been used against India. It still does not explain the fact that we have been slapped with the highest tariff rate in the world, 50%. It still does not explain the fact that the Russian oil thing, which the Americans are saying is a fig leaf. It is not the real reason, certainly not. It has nothing to do with the Russian oil. We all know that. It still does not explain that. And therefore from Pakistan, I now come to India and explain what really is actually happening and not happening in the relations between the two countries, which is leading to this incredibly high tariff rate which has been slapped on us, these penalties which has been slapped on us, and the prospect that the relationship will go even further south in the future. Why is that happening? Let's try and understand. So let me start again a little bit from the beginning about this when we are talking about the India part, that in some strange way, because this is our Indian problem, I think, our minds are still, even today, despite all the wonderful progress we have made under the present government for the last 10 years, all that incredible progress we have done, we still are, I think, a very emotional, a sentimental lot of people. We still are not what I call hard boiled people who really, really understand, that the world is changing. It is becoming a very, very um, uh, in a certain sense, a protectionist place, a certain sense, a transactional place. This entire thing of Vishwaguru is, it's nice, but who cares about that in the world, really, if you really ask me? The sentimentalism which we had about America, about this president, about Howdy Modi, and all those things, those are misplaced ideas. That does not help you to get leverage with America. America is a country which is changing very, very fast. It's not only the near death experience of the president, which has, I think, probably changed him, which has changed his outlook vis a vis the world. It is also the fact there are developments which are taking place within America, which are important to the world, but certainly important to this administration in terms of the migrant crisis, in terms of the cities, in terms of the American administration taking over even those cities which they have done, for instance, in Washington, where they sent the National Guard to take over the police forces. There's a lot of churn which is going on within America also. We are not taking into cognizance all these radical world changes which are taking place, and therefore we still, we have this habit of sticking to sentimentalism, dosti, yari, japhis and puppies and all that. If you ask me, that has no place in the world today. I'll give you another example. For example, we might meet the French president, Macron, with the jaffies and puppies and all that. But do you think those jaffies and puppies are happening just because of friendship only, or because there is some kind of a bromance or something? Not really. The fact is, you buy fighter planes from France, you put in hundreds of orders of planes from Airbus. That's a lot of money which is going to France. This is what is making it. It is a transactional relationship. Make sure of that. If that were not there, I really wonder. And that same thing actually, to that extent, applies to Russia also. We have a defense relationship. You have a oil purchase relationship. If these relationships are not there, and you say, "Oh yeah, India and Russia, we have always been looked out for each other," and all that, the sentimentalism is only just a minute part of it. The transactional part is the real part of relations between countries. So that's the first important thing we need to keep in mind vis-a-vis the US. And then the other important thing is, for whether we like it or not, now we can't open our agriculture. We can't open our dairy, which is, these facts are well known. I don't have to reiterate that. And this was something which the Americans are very, very keen about. For instance, I don't know if you know about this, but the Americans now have made a demand to China that, can you please open your markets for us soya beans from American farmers? They were very keen to export this soya bean to these GM crops to India, but India has obviously refused. This is no go for us. So they're very keen if somehow China can open that market. Now we can't do that. We can't give that. We don't have that leverage, because if you are comfortable with it, which we can't be because of cultural reason, because of religious reason. And absolutely correct. I completely support this fact that this is a no-go area. And therefore, what is the leverage we have? Or do we have any leverage? We need to ask ourselves about that. And then the other thing regarding India US, which we still don't understand, is this. And I'm going to talk about not only the past president, but this president, certainly, practically all US presidents. The thing we don't understand is we will not appeal to America just by touting, or just by, you know, holding up this entire democracy card that you are the world's oldest democracy, we are the largest democracy, we have people to people contact. That is true. Of course, that is true. There is a very successful and a prosperous Indian American diaspora in the US. Uh, those are good points. Those are good points to talk about. But that is not the reason why India and the United States will get together. The real reason is we still, I think, don't understand or give credence or importance to the importance of power play between the US and other countries. And especially with the US and especially with this administration, you need to indulge in a certain kind of a power play, and only then you can earn their respect. And the classic example is China. Look at what the president of the US has just done. He has extended this tariff thing with the China for another 90 days. And why do you think he's done that? The you can say, oh, it's hypocrisy. They're also taking Russian oil. They don't care. They've done it because of the simple fact because the Chinese know how to play hardball. The Chinese know what power play is. They have been consistent in a particular messaging to the US. They have not wavered from that, by the way. And therefore, the US also can be flexible when it wants to be because of its interests. They understand there are a lot of interests. There's a lot of leverage that China has. Maybe it's because of the rare earths. I would suspect also because somewhere deep down, the Americans also know that it's not so easy to displace these supply chains. The apparel, the pharmaceuticals, the toys, the small things, Christmas is coming after some time, all those things. There would be chaos in the US if you suddenly, you completely oppose China on all the fronts. And China knows that. Both the countries know that. There's a leverage which is happening both sides. So the US is not completely antagonizing China, and China is also not picking up a total fight with the US. Look at the power play which has gone on between both the countries, and we need to learn from that. What we are doing, I still feel we are doing very good things vis-a-vis. We have reacted by and large. Yeah, our government has reacted in the right way by and large, restrained, good. Uh, but there still needs to be forceful power play that is somehow missing, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that also later, that where is the weak link in this entire thing in our outreach to the US. I'm going to talk about that. But the point which I'm making is that you have to understand what power play the US and this president also respects. People think that he only likes flatterers. I disagree. He might be liking flatterers. He might be liking people who, as the Americans use the term, suck up to him. That might be true. But he also respects powerful people. He respects people who have something in their hand. He respects people and countries who have leverage. And we need to discover our mojo, our leverage. And I'm going to talk of our leverage, which we have. And I don't understand why we are not using it, but I'll talk about that again. But let me complete a couple of points regarding India, and then I'll come to these points. And therefore, um, when it comes to power play, when it comes to force projection, then the classic example is the our Air Force chief's statement, which happened a few days back. What a wonderful power play that was. In clear terms, in absolutely clear, straight, and very strong and effective terms, the Air Force chiefs laid it out how we had knocked off more than six planes, Pakistani planes, and we had destroyed their hangars, their infrastructure, so many of their air defense systems, and the damage we had done overall to the air bases and to the Pakistani pride. And look at it very, very carefully. All this Munir antics, all this flare up of nuclear war, we will hit your dams, and this and that has all come after the power play projection by the Air Force chief. And therefore, the logical question which I'm asking is, and by the way, the Air Force chief has not been speaking on his own. Obviously, it is a government has directed him to speak at this point in time. And therefore, the logical question is that why were these ambiguous noises being made by some of our own defense personnel earlier at the Shangri-La conference and all that? Why did we not, with such force and power play projection, say the same things 3 months back? We have done a few mistakes out there. The narrative, as I have said, has been a major problem. We won the war, but we kind of lost it of because of the narrative problem, and therefore the Air Force chief set the things right. But then again, and this is where India always, we start stumbling after making such fantastic starts. Is after this fantastic power play, and we rattled Munir and Pakistan no end, where they were saying he was saying all these hysterical things in the US, and then again this absolutely tepid statement from the MEA Ministry of External Affairs. And here I'm going to talk about what is our chink in the armor. And I think our chink in the armor is certainly not our prime minister, who I think is perhaps the most forceful and charismatic speaker the world has ever seen. It is certainly not our defense chiefs. The air chief has made a spectacular power play projection. I think it is our MEA. The MEA, for some reason, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, has always been giving out these very tepid, thaka hua, as we say in Hindi, feeble responses. Like what Munir, for instance, said in the United States is actually a grave provocation. Countries have gone to war over less. He not only threatened us with a nuclear strike, he threatened half of the world. But he said that I'm going to hit your Jamnagar facilities. I'm going to target Reliance. I'm going to target any dam which you build on the Indus River. It's not your family property. The very least, we should have given a much stronger statement, almost a tough, belligerent statement, because that shows intent. But instead, we this tepid thing, Pakistan indulges in this nuclear saber rattling. What kind of statement is that? It's a wishy-washy, weak statement. And this is my problem here, that in terms of our narration, the MEA lets us down again and again. And I know the reason for that. And maybe I think it's time I talked about it. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason for that, why the Ministry of External Affairs mandarins let us down again and again, and it happened during the time of Mystery also when he spoke up after Operation Sindoor. What a spectacular operation and how successful, and then that tepid response which he gave, if you remember, screwed everything for us. Why the MEA does this again and again is because of the simple reason that the mandarins of MEA, they have it in their heads that somehow they have to be even more sober and restrained and dignified and English speaking types than the Western countries like Britain and like the US. We have to show them our good manners and our good behavior all the time. It doesn't work any longer. The world has changed. There's news for the MEA. We are a transactional world. It's a tough world. It's dog eats dog out there. And this kind of tepid responses earn no favors from anyone. People laugh at it. Nobody takes it seriously, for God's sake. The one statement of the Air Force chief, the one statement of a defense minister, Rajnath Singh, and our hearts were gladdened. This was the way to respond. And then what happens? The MEA comes into the picture, and then again it goes down. And then you these tepid responses, because the MEA responses are important. They are our voice to the world. And the world says, yaar, India ye thaka hua case hai. Ye kuch nahi, inko hum jo chahe kar sakte hain. That's the problem. That's what people think, that, yeah, we can walk over India. It's a soft state. And that's, I think, I'm not directly attributing it to the MEA only, but the reason why we are treated as a soft state vis-a-vis, for instance, China, is because our power play is not consistent. Yes, we will do fantastic power play at some point in time, like we have done now, as I said, with the Air Force Chief's presentation. But it has to be consistent. It has to be all the time. That tone and tenor has to be maintained. But unfortunately, as I said, the MEA doesn't do that. And that is one huge reason why we are never taken seriously. We're always taken as a soft state. But enough of this talk. Now let's come to solutions. We understand the problem. We understand the fact that our relationship with the US is important. And therefore, it comes to the $1,000,000 question, that what is the leverage we have to reciprocate this relationship? It is an ICU right now. I can see that. It is a relationship which is dying. How can you revive this dying patient? How can you make it spring back to life, as it were? It is one thing to, as I said in the beginning, rage against the dying of the light, but we have to use our brains. We have to use all the resources at our disposal to address the problem and reverse the situation. And therefore, it means we need a certain leverage in our hands, which we can present in front of the US. And what is that leverage? And that leverage is that it is staring us in the face, and I don't understand why don't we use it properly, is that we have to talk to the US and to the world at the same time. If necessary, we have to launch campaigns for it. We have, whatever we need to do is that, guys, we are a nation of 1.4 billion people. This is the most exciting market in the world today and going ahead in the future. And if you delink yourself from India, you will be the loser. We won't be the loser. You will lose this biggest market for your IT companies, market for your technology companies, market for your high tech, market for all kinds of goods and services, cars, autos, other things which the US might be interested in exporting to India. You will lose it forever. Use that as a card. Why don't we use that again and again? Drive the point home. Maybe people have forgotten this particular point. It is the most exciting and happening constituency in the world. It might not be at the moment in terms of dollar component or in monetary component, the most powerful, like the American consumer is, but the Indian consumer is coming up very fast. Certainly the Indian middle class, which is expanding by the day, by leaps and bounds. And therefore our time is not very far that the middle class will overtake the agricultural base in our country. And therefore this is the most exciting constituency of consumers in the world. That's your leverage. Use it again and again home to drive the point and tell the US that, okay, we can't open agriculture, we can't open dairy, but there are hundreds of other sectors where you're welcome on a maybe on a zero to zero tariff basis. We have to launch campaigns for that. We have to ask the Indian American community, rope them in. We have to ask our influencers. We don't want Thakawa people, our MEM mandarins. I don't even want to name, our ambassador in the US and all that, going and making these polite presentation in front of Lindsey Graham and all that. That doesn't work. You need forceful power play. You need to make these strong pitches. You need to sell your constituency. You know, take a leaf out of China's playbook to that matter. Play hardball, but at the same time, be open. The democratic thing, the democratic dividend potential, and all that comes later. But the first is the market thing. This is it. This is money to be made out here. This is the point we have to drive home again and again. And in an over the top manner. This has to be done. This is the world we live in. We don't live in these polite, as I said, rarefied, diplomatic worlds. That era is gone. It's finished. You need to drive home hard bargains. This is what we need to. The trade team from the US is coming, and the one that is finally coming, I believe. This is what you need to tell them that, guys, you risk losing the most lucrative market in the world. You also risk losing a potential supply chain alternative to China. That's the second message you need to drive home. Why is this not being driven home? That we are ready, we are prepared. We will give you the land, we will give you the facilities. Now our airports are coming up, our railways are coming up. We have water, we have all the Indus River water is there. All those things are there with us. The entire infrastructure, the ecosystem is there. Set up alternative supply chains. This is the message you need to send across. Try it, rage against the dying of the light. I'm sure it will work, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Fine, we let go of it. But have you tried this particular thing? We need to try this path all the time. Play hardball, and therefore, um, if the US is a friend, you have every right to tell the US as a friend what you think and feel about it. That's the final conclusion which I want to leave on this podcast. And what is this thing you need to tell the US? He says you have to tell the US upfront, which we haven't, by the way, even today. We have couched it in very, very nice, finesse, diplomatic terms. Oh, Asim Munir made these statements from a friendly third country. What kind of rubbish nonsense is that? Pick up the phone and speak to your US counterparts and tell them, guys, we are absolutely pissed off that Munir made these absolutely rubbish statements from your soil. How could you allow him to do that? Why didn't you pull him up? You should have actually taken him into handcuffs and put him into a prison or something out there for this nonsense. He's been threatening not only India but the whole world. That should be your pitch. This is what we need to do, because if we say the US is a friend, we are a friend to here, then as friends, we need to tell each other the truth. And that is what we have not been doing. We need to look the US in the eye and tell them this, exactly this. And I promise you, they will appreciate it. It's a country which respects power. It's a country which respects power play. And this is the only thing which has been missing. We have all the other elements in place, but this is the only thing which we are missing in our armor. Power play. We need to get that. We need to get a mojo rolling. We need to get a power play going. And then you wait and see. All these problems can be reversed back. Rage against the dying of the light. And so on this note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you liked it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.